Today we're going to dive into a really beautiful and profound idea. The idea that the genuine goodness in just one person has the power to awaken the goodness in everyone around them. It's a huge concept, and it all starts with a question I think we've all asked ourselves.
You know that feeling, right? You look at the world and all the problems, and you just think, what can I possibly do? I'm just one person. But what if that very thought, that feeling of being powerless, is actually the biggest thing holding us back? So, if we want to find the power to make a real, lasting difference, where do we start? Well, ancient wisdom gives us a kind of surprising answer. It says the journey doesn't start with big, grand actions out in the world. Nope. It starts with something much, much closer to home, cultivating our own character. We should never, ever underestimate our own potential. You see, the sincere heart and true virtue of just one person can be like a light in a dark room. It has this incredible ability to awaken the natural goodness that's already lying dormant in other people. It's a power that truly ripples outward from the inside. And to really see this principle in action, let's look at the story of an ancient sage king named Shun. He's this perfect example of self-cultivation, and what makes his story so powerful is that he developed his amazing character while facing incredible hardship. His own family treated him horribly. Shun's whole perspective on this was, well, it was revolutionary. He understood that caring for your parents isn't some kind of deal. It's not, you're nice to me, so I'll be nice to you. He felt this deep, profound gratitude just for being given life, and he believed that showing respect and care, what we call filial piety, was his absolute duty, no matter how they treated him.
And his life shows this ripple effect perfectly. First, he focused on himself, on his own character. Because his sincerity was so unwavering, his family's hearts were completely transformed. Then, his virtue started inspiring his entire community. They were so moved, they literally wanted to follow him wherever he went. And eventually, this caught the attention of King Yao, who saw that Shun was the only person with the character worthy of leading the entire nation. See the pattern? From self, to family, to the community, and finally, to the world.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a nice story from thousands of years ago. But the amazing thing is, this principle of virtue creating this powerful, positive influence, it's absolutely timeless. It works today, just as it did back then.
So let's fast forward to our modern world. In Singapore, there was a woman who is basically considered a national treasure, Miss Hứa Triết. And her life is this incredible testament to how selfless love can inspire not just a city, but the entire world, just like Emperor Shun. Just let this sink in for a second. At 106 years old, she dedicated her life to single-handedly caring for almost 30 elderly people, and most of them were in their 70s and 80s, decades younger than her. Her profound love and compassion have touched the hearts of millions of people, way beyond the borders of Singapore. So here's the key point, the big takeaway from all this. Making a real, meaningful contribution to the world isn't some impossibly complicated thing. It all starts with the simple but profound act of elevating our own moral character. And when more and more of us start thinking this way, society itself starts to heal and transform.
It's clear this wisdom is incredibly powerful, and it's not just an Eastern idea. Some of the greatest minds in the West have recognized just how important it is, which kind of raises a big question. If this knowledge is so vital, have we somehow forgotten it?
Back in the 1970s, the famous British historian Arnold Toynbee said something pretty incredible. He looked at the world and concluded that the only real answers to our modern problems were hidden in the ancient teachings of Confucius, Mencius, and Mahayana Buddhism. And remember, this wasn't a Chinese scholar saying this, it was a Western historian.
And then, in 1988, it got even more serious. Get this, 75 Nobel Prize winners, some of the most brilliant minds on the entire planet, all gathered in Paris. And what did they conclude? They declared that for humanity to even survive the 21st century, we have to go back and rediscover the wisdom of Confucius. So we have to ask ourselves, if the smartest people in the world can see this so clearly, why don't we? It's kind of ironic, isn't it? In the very places where this wisdom originated, it's often been pushed aside, while people in other parts of the world have worked so hard to preserve it. Because when you really boil it all down, the core message from all the great sages is stunningly simple and consistent. Confucianism calls it benevolence. Buddhism calls it compassion. Western sages call it universal love. The names might be a little different, but the heart of the teaching is exactly the same. The wisdom is right there for us. Our suffering often just comes from the fact that we're not listening.
Okay, so this brings everything to a really practical and frankly urgent point. The future that we're building for our children. The path we set them on right now will literally determine the kind of world they get to live in.
We hear that term life planning all the time, right? Planning for careers, for finances, for success. But we really need to stop and ask ourselves a deeper question. What kind of life are we actually planning for our kids? Is it a life of true virtue, or is it a life of just chasing material things?
Let's just compare these two paths for a minute. When a child is guided toward virtue, they learn to find deep, genuine meaning in caring for others. The result? A truly fulfilling life. But when a child is taught to only focus on their own self-interest, they just learn to chase one fleeting pleasure after another. Their whole life becomes this endless treadmill of trying to satisfy desires that can never be truly satisfied.
And the consequences of this materialistic path, well, they're pretty severe. We see young people today juggling multiple credit cards, spending money they don't have, and basically destroying their financial standing before they even get started in life. They become slaves to what they want, and they start to see life as a battlefield where everyone else is just a competitor. They might end up with a lot of stuff, but they face a spiritually empty and lonely old age. True blessing, true happiness is found in peace and family in our later years, not in a pile of things we've consumed. So this choice between a harmonious world and a world in crisis, between a life of meaning and a life of emptiness, it seems huge, it seems complicated, but what if? What if it's much, much simpler than we think?
The state of our world, whether it's a beautiful, peaceful place or a place full of conflict, it isn't decided by some distant, uncontrollable forces. No, it's actually decided by something much, much closer to us all. The root of everything, it all comes down to a single thought. Our entire shared reality rests on this one tiny foundation. A thought of compassion or a thought of selfishness. A thought of kindness or a thought of conflict. You see, the power to change the world isn't out there somewhere. It's right here, inside each and every one of us, in this very moment. So, the only question that really truly matters is this. Today, right now, which thought will you choose?
If you found this reflection helpful, please subscribe so you don't miss our next sharing. Thank you for joining us.